Sean. Perfect. I love that hymn. And the first one too is incredible. I'm still not sure quite how to sing it, but its text was incredible. And that's beautiful. So Elijah, we're back to Elijah. Elijah has this incredible experience where he wins on the top of Mount Carmel, which is north of Tel Aviv, near Jaffa. If you've ever had a Jaffa orange, that's where Mount Carmel is. And there he had a face-off with the priests. I'm going to say Baal, but you might say Baal, okay? With the priests of Baal, and he showed them what's what and who's who, and that the Lord is in charge of rain. And then after that, he got depressed. The letdown, the deflation after the big event. Maybe it is like Peggy Lee asked, is that all there is? So now, and furthermore, he's made King Ahab and Queen Jezebel upset. So they're pursuing him, and he goes on the run. And he's out in the wilderness, he's hungry, an angel comes and gives him food. At the beginning, when Cindy was reading, it said, and he ate and drank. An angel had just given him food. And so now he has a little strength. And he decides, I'm going to Mount, we'll just say Horeb, okay? Horeb. Now Mount Horeb is the same as Mount Sinai. Don't ask me why, but in certain parts of ancient Israel, they called it Sinai. In other parts, they called it Horeb. It's the same place. Elijah decides, now that he's strong, now that he feels okay again, he wants to go on a retreat. He wants to go on a spiritual pilgrimage. He wants to have a big, powerful religious experience. He signed up for the conference. He's going to, Groton Wood, Ocean Park. For a spiritual retreat, he's going to Mount Sinai, where Moses, to stand on the rock where Moses stood. And back in the book of Exodus, when Moses stood on Sinai, there was earthquake, there was thunder, there was lightning, there was smoke, and the Lord came down in this powerful way and etched the 10 Commandments on rock. Elijah wants that same kind of powerful religious experience he remembers. When we're on the run, when we feel like something's missing, often we get it in our heads, I want that big, powerful thing I once experienced. I want that religious experience I had. I want that relationship experience I had. I want to feel what I felt back then. I'm going to recreate that. I'm going to go back to that same place. I'm going to do the same thing I did before, because I need that big, powerful experience I had. Now, the punchline of this sermon is not, I'm not going to delay it anymore. But I'm not finished yet, even though it's a hot day. The punchline of this sermon is, you know what they say about the desert? About how the wind moves the sand around? And you can be in, the desert is never the same place twice. And you know what they say about stepping in rivers? What do they say? What did they say? Do you know? No. Oh, sorry, Board of Rabbis. What do they say about if you step in the river? It's never the same river twice. I didn't make that up, right? You've heard that? At least agree with me. Sean, have you heard that? All right. This is a Kentucky thing. But this is the great thing. Let's say you want to talk about your spiritual life. Do you want to talk about your marriage? Do you want to talk about your church? Do you want to talk about any part of your life and you remember this incredible, powerful, exciting, life-changing thing, and you know what? You'd like another dose of that. And so you go to your Mount Sinai. You go to your Mount Horeb, but what do you find? This time the Lord's not in the earthquake. This time, God comes in a different way. And it says here, the still small voice. I'd love to tell you a little Hebrew. You don't mind that, do you? What it really says is the sound of a thin whisper. And what I've always imagined that meant was that if you put a conch to your ear, did you hear that? If you didn't, that's good too. That sound that's not a sound. And so where's God? In the big event, in the excitement, in the special effects. That's where God is. This week we had a Bible study. Marilyn was there. Muriel was there. Cindy was there. Dorothy. Kyle was there. I was there. Bandit, no, I don't know if he was there. It was about a story from John 5 that I was going to preach on one day. And Anita said, will you come back and preach on that again sometime? Because I promised it. And it was about a time when Jesus is in Jerusalem. And Jesus goes to the old city. Well, it was the only city then. And in it, there was a pool of water. And there was a local legend. Something made that water stir up every now and then. And when it did, the local legend was that was an angel who invisibly stepped into the water and made it vibrate. And that if you were ill, as soon as those waters vibrated and shook and moved, the first sick person in those waters would get healed. And so all the disabled veterans, all the lame, it says in the King James Version, and halt, in Jerusalem were hanging out around that pool to hope that the angel would come, the water would be troubled, and they would get in that pool first. They're hoping for a miracle. They're hoping for an angel. They're hoping to win the spiritual lottery. They're hoping for a kind of Mount Sinai. They're hoping for a big, powerful experience. And then Jesus comes, and what does Jesus do? Now here you can help me. You remember. First of all, what does Jesus say to the guy?
Do you want to be healed?
Well, do you want to be healed? And that still is another sermon I haven't preached yet, and I won't today. Because listen, you rascals, this is a great question. Do you want to be healed? Maybe you like that crutch. Maybe you're kind of used to it. Because to be healed means you'd have to change. And we can get used to our disabilities. They can be our friend. They're not great friends, but sometimes it feels like they're the only friends I have. I once heard someone, a wise country person, say to me that for years, her best friend was a cigarette. But I understand that. I understand that way in which we become accustomed. to our crutches, our illnesses. So the first thing Jesus says is, do you want to be healed? And then the guy says, well, but I need an angel. I need someone to carry me to the pool. I need a miracle. And what does Jesus then say?
Get up and walk.
Get up and walk. No. You don't need a miracle. You don't need an angel. You don't need Mount Sinai. You just need to take the first step, because the power's already inside you. I mean, Dorothy Kinney and I this morning were playing around making jokes about the Wizard of Oz. But it's like the Wizard of Oz story. Dorothy, oh, how can I get home? How can I get home? You can't see me, but I'm clicking my heels. But she always had the power. God planted the Holy Spirit in us. God made us in the divine image. God gave an undefeatable power inside us. It's just grace. We didn't earn it. We don't deserve it, but it's there. And we keep waiting for Sinai. We keep waiting to recreate the past. We keep waiting for that person, that new job, that thing on the outside to come, and
Everything will be better.
Everything will be better. But God comes in a still small voice, and the still small voice just says, get up. Just take the first step. It's already inside you. Elijah discovered God in the stillness. Since I've become pastor here, I'm paying attention to church trends. Okay? Everybody's an expert, trust me. Everybody's got a product they want to sell you. 6 steps to a revitalized. Now, here's what they say. In 1962, church attendance peaked in the United States. In 1962. When did they build this building?
68.
Okay. They were a little, it takes a while. Needham is a conservative town. Took them 6 years to catch on. But what's the irony? By then, it was already starting to go down. Now, do we ever sit here and think, oh, if it could only be, let's go back to the Sinai of 1962. Let's go back when there was this happening and all this. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Sinai. I'd like to go to Sinai too. And if you go on a Holy Land tour, someone will take your money and say, let's go to Sinai, but they don't really know if that's it. But what's the thing about that desert? What's the thing about that river? You can't just dial up that peak. You have to encounter the new thing God has for you. God will come in the still small voice, not the same thing that happened before. I don't know what God has in store for this congregation. I haven't written one of those books about how to have the perfect church. I don't have anything to sell. But I do have this. I have hope. I have I'm not dead yet hope. I have don't put that last shovel of dirt over me hope. I may be down for the count, but the referee hasn't gotten to 10, and I'm getting up off this mat. Hope. But I don't know what it's going to look like. Okay? But I believe that the God who created us, who created the world, didn't do it just to break our hearts. Didn't do it just so we'd be disappointed. And at the end, love will triumph, yet it may not look the way we imagine or remember. That's the thing. Sean, you missed a great opportunity this morning. We're supposed to have some of that great music from Mendelssohn. It's Cantata Elijah, because I can hear this beautiful piece of music. Do you know it, John? And it says, and then there was an earthquake, and then there was a fire, and then there was this, and then here come the sopranos. And in a still voice, onward came the Lord. And in a still voice. And it's the sopranos. It's a quiet, tender, feminine voice. It's not a big shake the house, draw a lot of attention voice. It's just the voice of life that keeps going morning by morning. New mercies we see. This morning I pray we will all hear the still small voice in all the realms of our lives. In Jesus'